I think, the best place to start is if you maybe want to tell me a little bit about why you decided to join the certification.
Yeah, sure. So I guess it came about, it felt like, whilst it was a big decision, it felt like kind of the natural next step. So I'd done a reset initially, like lots of ladies, although I have to be completely honest that I didn't follow that in the way that lots of ladies did. I kind of dipped in, picked up some of the principles, but was completely convinced by the end of those 21 days that this was something that kind of fitted with me, that I aligned with. So yeah, then went on to join the academy. And the way that I would describe that, rather than 12 weeks, it was almost like a bit of a Netflix binge.
I love it.
I just kind of found myself thinking, I know I'm meant to kind of do this one a week, but I just found myself really hungry to find out all about the different kind of modules, the different aspects of the academy. So yeah, I just kind of listened to them whenever I was in the car. I started listening to more of your trainings and stuff. I just kind of was trying to immerse myself, if you like, in all things WLA. And as I did that, I just found that whilst I hadn't done the 21-day reset following the guides, for example, I absolutely had taken on board the principles. And I think it was just such a revolution that this finally was something that was giving me weight loss results, but that was really positive. And rather than one of these massively restrictive diets that doesn't fit in with anything else in life, this was something that I quickly realised I can do this. It's not, it doesn't feel actually that different. It works with family life. I can still socialise. I can apply the principles when I'm eating out if I choose to, but equally if I choose for that to be an indulgent meal out, that's fine as well. So I was kind of like just really thrilled to have stumbled across something that made a lot of sense to me. It was working, I was losing weight, I was dropping inches, all of those things were encouraging. But I think it was more than that, and the fact that it was dawning on me that it wasn't just about food and all these things that in my kind of history of dieting, I'd never really addressed any of the behavioural stuff around food. So yeah, I think the fact that the academy was doing that was like really transformative. And I thought, do you know what, I'd really, really love to understand that more and to give some proper time to learning about it and to learning about myself. First and foremost, I guess it was about that really, that I felt so convinced by the approach that I was keen to know more and apply it to myself. But I was also excited, the prospect of like this could lead to something, this could be a way that I perhaps bring an additional income in the future. So yeah, that was there as well, but it wasn't predominantly that, if you like. It was twofold really.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the same for a lot of people. I had a couple of chats with a few ladies yesterday, and it's the same sort of thing, really wanting to, like when you come into the academy, you dive into all that information, but it's almost like you want more of the knowledge, more of the understanding, and then really for yourself. And then of course, like the opportunity that comes out the other side is really interesting, and you're open to seeing where that goes, which I think is really exciting. How did you find like going through the certification, like the assessments, the modules, doing assessment 3, all that stuff? How was that for you?
It was really good, actually. I have to admit, I was quite apprehensive, just because I hadn't studied for ages. So part of that was just like giving myself permission in a way to take the time to do it, because I knew that was going to be significant. And thinking about, oh gosh, how am I going to respond to like deadlines and lots of reading and all those kind of things. But I just sort of trusted. Obviously I'd listened to some of your kind of talks and trainings around that, and then we chatted. And I think for me the biggest thing that made it doable was how flexible it is in terms of how you approach it. So for me, I found that the way to do it was to listen to the modules, because I spend quite a bit of time driving to and from my workplaces. So I just figured actually I could use that time really positively. Obviously not on its own. I would kind of listen to the modules often kind of 2 or 3 times, and then I'd carve out some time, you know, at the weekend or in an evening to properly kind of look at that physically, read it physically, and kind of do the extra bits of reading and stuff. So yeah, I think because it was flexible, I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed attending like live trainings if I could. That was always, you know, that's such a positive. But if I couldn't, obviously, again, the flexibility about being able to catch up with it, and not feeling like you've missed out or you've missed a chunk of learning that, you know, was so valuable. So I think for me that was key, that it was flexible and I could kind of organise my own time with it, was really important.
Absolutely.
So it was good. The assessments felt quite mega. I'm a bit of a perfectionist. So yeah, every question I would answer, but then I'd want to like fine tune it, and it did take me back to uni days where you're trying to kind of, you know, do the best that you can do. But it was good. And then assessment 3, obviously very different. So it was good. I found that really freeing.
I feel like you kind of flew through it, right? Because of course, like for anybody that's watching, like a lot of your class now are still submitting assessment 3 and haven't qualified yet. But I feel like you got through things quite quickly. Like which is amazing, right?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think that's the thing, isn't it? That you give it that element of flexibility about, you know, you give a guide as to when assessments are due, but then there's flexibility around that. Either way, you could submit it early, but equally if something gets in the way, there's no pressure. And I think that obviously allows all the ladies who take up the course to just have that level of calm about, if life throws a curveball your way, then it's not a problem. And equally, if you find you've got a little chunk of time that you didn't think you were going to get, I just used to try and utilise that and think, right, okay, I've got 3 hours. And I think assessment 3, I got not lucky, but what I've decided to do is have like a practice run. So a friend of mine who had been quite kind of keen for quite a few months to know what I was doing, she'd noticed like that I'd lost weight, and that just that I was really excited by how I was doing it. So she'd been asking loads of questions, and then she was sort of saying, oh, I really actually want to do it, will you properly tell me about it? So I sort of said, oh, absolutely I will, but you wouldn't mind being like a guinea pig for me, would you? So at that point I thought she was going to be, like I say, a guinea pig, a practice run, if you like. Because I was nervous, I thought, well, let's just have a practice. It's not going to be the one that I submit for my assessment. It will just be really good experience. But much to my delight, when I got going with it, actually it wasn't as nerve-wracking as I thought.
So good. So
it was good. And she ended up being my client, which was amazing.
So amazing. Amazing. That's it. I think also then if you like take the pressure off yourself, like, okay, this is just gonna be a little practice run, and then it shows you that actually when you get into it, I think you know more than what you realize, and you just get into the flow of it, which is really amazing. I think one of the things I really enjoyed, like watching you go through the certification, was, you know, when you were there for the live sessions, you really showed up and shared, you know, I guess probably like your own perspective in terms of like how you've changed a lot around like your relationship with food. And I just think that was really amazing to see that you really just showed up and shared like, this is how I've changed, or this is how, you know, I've handled these sort of situations. I think a lot of the other ladies learned a lot from, you know, you sharing your story, which was amazing. Is there anything in particular that you feel that you enjoyed the most out of the certification? Maybe there's a few things, or
I think there are a few things. I think one of the top ones was making the decision to do something for myself. I know that for me and for probably lots of other ladies, certainly a lot of my good friends, they're very good at kind of taking care of everything and everyone else, and then the thought of kind of devoting lots of time to something that you want to do, perhaps we just assume that we can't do that. I think I spoke with you about that actually when we first chatted, that it felt like a big deal to kind of, you know, to say like on a Saturday, I'm going to be kind of out of action for 4 hours because I've got a Zoom, and then I'm going to put a couple of hours studying, for example. But that's been, it's been a real learning for me, because not only has it, obviously produced real positive kind of results in terms of the certification, but I think it's also helped me to realise that it's a good thing to do, and it's not only good for me, but it's been good for the rest of the family as well. So
yeah, absolutely.
So that's quite a learning.
Yeah, I think, and even me as well, I think that sometimes as well, it's like if we are not around, or like the house is going to burn down, or somebody's not going to eat, or somebody's going to starve, but it's like it's not that bad, so we can completely devote a little bit of time to our own personal development, and it's really really worth it.
I think it's that as well, like digging in, because I was so excited by the whole sort of WLA approach. I think what I've really enjoyed is like having the time to properly go deeper with that. And I think a lot of society often is about a quick, like quickly watch this on social media or quickly read this article. And whilst there's value in that, often what I would then find is that a few months later, I've completely put that down. I hadn't kind of taken it on board. I certainly hadn't embedded it into my kind of daily habits or routines. And a big thing about the academy obviously is about kind of developing those positive habits and really embedding stuff. And I really believe in that. I think if you give time to something and you invest in it, you get much more out of it than if you just kind of scratch the surface. So that's been really significant, kind of seeing how much I've learned when I've actually given time properly. And it's massive. Like I won't ever go back to the days of clutching at straws, grabbing at a quick fix, which I spent years trying things because I suddenly panicked that a holiday was 3 months off and I felt uncomfortable, or I won't ever do that anymore. So the kind of the payoff, if you like, in having invested the time is huge, because it's for the rest of my life. And it's amazing. So that's huge.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. That's amazing. And also, as you say, like that also has an impact on family life as well, and nutrition in the home as well. It can be so powerful, right?
Yeah, massive. I was thinking that yesterday, because the girls, I've got 2 teenagers, and I'm probably quite lucky that both of them will eat quite a wide variety. But my eldest has had her sort of struggles a little bit. She can be a little bit more picky around food, and she also, or both of us also had a really negative experience after having COVID. It really impacted our taste for a long time. And I think that really damaged her relationship with food, because it wasn't enjoyable for a long time. But the other day they both said, oh Mum, it's like been really hot. We're thinking maybe we'll take a salad to school instead of like a cob, we'd say like a bread roll. And I was like, oh yeah, okay, brilliant. So like I often, almost every day, will make a salad box up, because it works. I can eat it in the car if I need to. It's just practical. I really enjoy it. But I found myself making 3 and thinking like, this is brilliant, but it actually, like, I need so much salad stuff. Just going through it, like platters, and they'll both have a smoothie. So in the morning when I make my smoothie, I just make a smoothie for 3 in the big blender. It is incredible. And even like snacking, sometimes I kind of get home from work and I'm like, have you had a snack? And I'm like, yeah, we've had hummus and veg and had some nuts. And I'm like, wow.
You're like,
I mean, don't get me wrong, there's still the chocolate and the crisps.
Of course. Yeah.
But that is really significant.
It does rub off, right?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. And I think that's beautiful. It's beautiful to see, I guess, like, for you, obviously making the decision, do you feel like the hardest part of making the decision was the fact of, okay, I'm dedicating time to myself when I'm not really used to doing that? Was that really the hardest part of the decision?
It was a big part of it, but I think, like, as I chatted about it with my husband, and he was brilliant, because he was like listen to how you talk when you talk about it, like you're really fired up for it, you should do it. He was brilliant, really supportive.
So nice.
I guess the other consideration just was the financial consideration. That was quite a big deal. It's like, not only like spending the time, But then if I chose to spend the time, like spending the money, of course, and just making a decision together, like, what does that look like? And, you know, how do we approach that? How do we make it work, sort of thing. So that was the other consideration. But I think as soon as we worked that out, I then just felt excited. So there was a period of time, I am a thinker, so there was a period of time where I sort of ummed and ahed and went backwards and forwards, but I think that's the way I'm wired, and it means that when I make the decision, I know it's the right one. So yeah, it was good.
Absolutely.
Those two things together, really, time and the cost.
And I think having clarity, and I think, you know, we all make decisions in different ways. You know, some people can like make a decision in that moment because they just like know, but other people need to sit with it and just like analyze it and stuff like that as well. I think that's really important, knowing like what's the best way for you to make that decision. And obviously now you've submitted everything, you've got your certificate, you're qualified. What, like, you might not have all the ideas in terms of what's next. Have you sort of thought about anything? What are you thinking?
I've started to think about it. It's a bit of a funny place to be. I think obviously you put so much kind of time and energy into the certification and have so enjoyed it and kind of built, you know, relationships within such a lovely community that it was weird. Like, I remember sending the third one and thinking, oh gosh, I've sent it. Like, a little bit surreal initially. And then, hearing back that you'd passed it and that you were certified, which was amazing. But now I'm sort of in this period of where, like, I feel excited. I know there's something ahead. I'm not entirely sure what that looks like. But I think probably I so enjoyed the one-to-one aspect of assessment 3. And it made me realise that actually, certainly initially, I think that's probably where I'm looking to head, in that direction. So I've started to kind of, you know, have a look. Obviously there's loads out there, isn't there? There's so many different kind of weight loss approaches in the industry. And I'm excited because I know that this one is different and it works. And I just 100% believe in, you know, the principles and the ethos behind it. So that feels, you know, that isn't holding me back at all, because I'm so convinced by it as an approach that it feels like it wouldn't be difficult to share that. But it's just obviously learning some of the things that I need to learn. I need to become present on social media, which for me is quite a big thing. I'm not a massive personal user of social media. So there's things like that obviously I need to be learning about and stuff, and just considering exactly what it might look like for me, what I might be offering, and all those sort of practical things. So I've got some time in the summer because I teach, so we get quite a decent holiday in the summer.
Nice.
So I'm going to put some time to it then, and really sort of start to think about some sort of strategy and planning. So
that's really exciting. And you know, I think that the beautiful part of this process is really doing something that feels good for you. I know obviously we were chatting a little bit in the emails over the past couple of days, and I always just, I think, like, because I think probably one of the best pieces of advice that I ever got was really just try to follow the path that feels right for you. And of course, I'm there to support you in terms of, you could try this, you could try that. But also, I just, like, you won't know what you really love also until you get stuck into it, you know. So as you've done the one-to-one and you're like, oh, you know, I like that, you know, I like having that connection with that person. And then, you know, sort of looking, well, what would that look like, taking it forward in terms of like how many clients, and, you know, we're talking about points and stuff like that. Really try to feel into, I know that can be hard, but I always just feel like that was like one of the best pieces of advice that I ever got, was just try to stay true to yourself, and not, you know, oh, I'll do this or I'll do that. And you'll learn so much that way as well.
I'm sure. I think that's really good advice, because I think obviously it's easy to kind of look around you and compare, isn't it? Or look at somebody doing it one way and assume that that's the right way. But obviously we're all different, and that means that we all respond differently to different people and different styles and different approaches. So it's about kind of reminding myself of that, because I am guilty of you know, perhaps looking at somebody else and assuming they're more sorted or they're further down the line with it, etc., etc. But I guess that's another thing that this whole journey has taught me, actually, really powerfully, is that we're all different. We've all approached the certification differently. We've all brought our different backstory to it. We've got different strengths, and that's fine. And it's such a kind of accepting community. I think that in itself is powerful, and I think a lot of us have felt really freed by that, because we've realised that we're all very, very different, but we all bring something into the mix. And if we're looking to use that and utilise that professionally in some capacity, that I think you're right, if we head in a direction that's natural to us, that we're more likely, I guess, to find that place and success. So,
absolutely. And then you're building something that feels really good for you, you know, based on, like, some people really want to go for it in social media and be present and be everywhere, and others, they don't, and they want to have, you know, a little bit of presence, and you know, that maybe they take that presence and they take it a little bit, because, like, there's so many ways to have it set up. It doesn't have to just be like that. There are, you know, lots of different ways. So I think really, well, what do I want this to look like for me with regards to, you know, you already work, so, you know, setting it up on the side, how many clients, and just, I think getting clear with that is important. And, you know, we'll talk a little bit about that kind of stuff in the graduation day as well, like just helping you ladies get like some focus. Me too. Me too. Do you have any little words of wisdom for anybody that's maybe considering, but you know what it's like at that, when you're like, I'm thinking about this, but it's a hard decision, right?
I guess it comes back to what we were saying before, doesn't it, about the two things for me, where can I invest the time? That I was quite quickly like, yes, I can, actually, because I can choose when I invest that. So if that means a few late nights or a few early mornings on a weekend, then actually I felt like I really want to do that, because this is something that I want to achieve. So that was quite easy. And then for me, like I said, it was the financial side of things. But I think if those two things are kind of in place, then I just would absolutely recommend to go for it. I don't think there's anything to lose at all, and there's so much to gain. So if you know you can afford the cost of it and you're willing to put the time in, I just would say 100% go for it. I think it's hard. I remember saying to you, and you saying, you know, it's whether you feel it's the right time to sort of step out and do something for yourself that you sound excited about. And as I kind of thought about that more and more, I was like, well, it's not the wrong time, you know. Like, and if it isn't now, when will it be? You know, I can always put some kind of reason. The same with weight loss, isn't it?
And you know what, we none of us can escape that. It's like when I was leaving a few months ago to go on the business trip, I mean, the night before, and that was a real hard thing for me to do, you know, and I was like so close to not going, and I was crying, and I was like, I can't leave you guys, but I know I have to go and do this on my own, because if yous are with me, I'm not going to focus. So, and, you know, it's like, we can't escape that, especially if we're like mothers or we have other responsibilities. We always have that, like, you know, we want to put our family first, you know, but sometimes it is, you know, what, like, it's the same as you. I was thinking of in that situation, like, I'm also doing this for us. You know, it's not just me, it's also part of something much bigger than, you know, me just getting on a plane. So, I mean, it's hard, right?
It is hard, but I think also it sets an example, doesn't it? So my eldest is a year away from GCSE. She's just done her mocks, and it was interesting because she'd seen me kind of almost like timetabling in slots that I was kind of like, this is going to be my certification time, and approaching it in certain ways and stuff. And when it came to her revision, she's like, Mom, you know, when you're doing your certification, So like we sat and did a little timetable, and I was thinking to myself, actually, there was I worrying a bit that I wasn't going to be as present, and that was going to be a negative. But actually through that, I suppose it's modelled, you know, that you have to work hard for something if you want to achieve it, and that you have to carve out time, and that's okay. It's okay to prioritise yourself and the time that you need to achieve something. So I think that's actually been a real positive as well that I wasn't expecting. So there you go, there's another positive.
It's beautiful. Amazing. I love it. Well, I'm so grateful that you've jumped on today. I mean, as I said, we just loved having you in the community. As I said, you showed up and you shared, and we love that, you know, and we got to know you so well throughout that process. And it's great having you in the community, and I'm so excited to see, you know, where you take this. Like, as a, you know, I'm obviously, I was sort of thinking when we were emailing, definitely going to be opportunities with us for VIP coaching and stuff like that. If you want to, we can talk about that. But I know you're going to do something amazing with this for sure. Absolutely. So thank you so much for jumping on today.